directly targeting it, Reggie's is the deck for you. And from a player that played Arceus Duraludon earlier, I think that this is a fantastic idea to pivot to.
Absolutely, and it looks like we are going to get into this one. There are some interesting things in this list here from Grant. As far as the Regielekis are concerned, he's actually not playing any copies of the Evolving Skies Regieleki, instead opting for 2 copies of that Astral Radiance Regieleki with that electromagnetic sonar attack to grab you back a trainer card from your discard pile, and also that strong targeted bolt attack, being able to deal 120 damage to a Pokemon on your opponent's bench.
You can see the shift in the metagame, right? Where Reggie players were kind of running both just to hedge. You would run a certain Aleki and focus on it as an attacker, depending on what was in vogue at the time. And now you're just focused completely on one Regieleki. Has an extra 10 HP as well, which sometimes matters.
That actually matters massively in this matchup, because one of Pablo's strategies against most Reggies is to try to take multiple prizes using his Raikou Amazing Rare, using that Amazing Shot attack, dealing 120 damage to the active and 120 damage to the bench. Because if your opponent ever puts a Regieleki in play with 120 HP from Evolving Skies, you can then combo Galarian Zigzagoon to deal extra 10 damage to maybe the 130 HP Reggie on the bench, or in the active if that's in the active. So wherever that Regieleki is, it can always be knocked out by the Raikou's Amazing Shot. But because Grant's not even playing the card, that's not something Pablo will ever have an opening to do.
Very heads up indeed, an adaptation to the metagame. When you're anticipating a single prize mirror like this, being able to take that first prize or somehow keep your opponent from taking 2 prizes at once is incredibly key, Chip. Pablo Meza now getting us started off with the flower selecting on the Comfey in the active, finds a second one. Looks like that grass energy going to go to the Lost Zone. Quick balls away, the Rayquaza going to keep on digging here. As we look through, still has the classic all-star cast of Oranguru, Radiant Greninja. So we're just being a lot more cards here on Pablo's side.
Yeah, Rayquaza hitting the discard pile. It's not really something you want to attack with in this matchup. It feels kind of bad to do 240 damage to a Pokemon that only has 130 HP and only gives up 1 prize card.
It's about sending a message. Save it for the final prize.
That's a statement right there, right?
Bring the Rayquaza back.
So I'm interested to see how Pablo will navigate this. It's definitely going to be a little more awkward than maybe it normally would be. He does have Sableye to try to spread some damage. Of course, Galarian Zigzagoon is still around to combo with the Amazing Shot, but he may have to try to save some of those scoop-up nets, not use them on Comfeys early on, maybe opt for the switch carts and escape ropes in those spots so that he has access to the Galarian Zigzagoon scoop-up net plays later on in order to take multi-prize turns with Amazing Shot.
And even if, you know, the Amazing Shot isn't on the table, Pablo is still in a great position with Cramorant, just to have that early aggressive tempo. Take 1 prize, take 2 prizes if Grant Shen doesn't get set up immediately, and then you're just kind of kicking back and chilling on your prize trade. Radiant Greninja is found. Escape rope now to switch the Comfeys, get another flower selecting.
Ooh, looks like a Battle VIP pass, but something else pretty important
Mirage
here.
Gate was the second card? Oh, Colress. Oh, that's a tough choice. You've got the 2 Comfeys already. You've already quick balled for the Radiant Greninja. Don't really need the Battle VIP pass here. And opts to keep the Colress's experiment. This sets you up for your next turn. Pablo really knows what he's doing. These Lost Zone decks, especially these ones that are running very specific spreads of energy, like we saw in the last round, Chip, if you put in your reps, then you're going to be really strong when it comes down to the wire. Over to Grant Shen's side, opens up with the Hisuian Heavy Ball, seeing what Reggies are in the prize cards.
Honestly, one of my favorite cards to have in my opening hand, because you can just play it down, check those prize cards, and then you never have to worry about taking that extra time searching through your deck, because you get all the information right away. So it always makes things a little bit nicer when you just open up with that Hisuian Heavy Ball in hand.
Yep, beautiful. Finds the Regigigas. Going to go ahead and add that to the hand.
Yeah, and set these prize cards back out. We didn't really talk about the prize cards too much. There's nothing super detrimental, I don't think, in here for Grant. 1 Aurora Energy could be awkward, but as long as he's able to find 2 and get them into the discard pile, he should be just fine.
Yep, and Ultra Ball discarding an Aurora Energy right off the bat, Chip. This is what you like to see.
Yes.
I think that what we have seen time and time again when it comes to this Reggie deck is you get all the Reggies in play, but there's no Aurora Energy to be seen.
Yep, it happens.
And then your really powerful attacks that you need aren't on the table, and it's forcing you to use those main deck, you know, Speed Lightnings, etc., in order to just use Regieleki. And with that low HP, as you touched on, Chip, can't really hard carry the way you need it to in the early mid-game. Reggie Steele being picked up off the Ultra Ball and added onto the bench. Now just a couple more Reggie Ice, Reggie Rock need to be found. And hopefully somewhere in that mix, an Aurora Energy will appear.
Yeah, we could see the fabled turn 1 attack with the Reggie deck. It happens every once in a while. It's pretty hard to pull off. Oh, no, there is an Evolving Skies Reggie Alecki here, it looks like. So, yeah, it does have a copy of that. Puts it down onto the bench.
Oh, okay. So we do have a little surprise guest star here.
And we do see Quickball can grab that Reg Ice and does also put the gift energy into the discard pile. A great place for that to be. We're actually looking like Grant could pull this off. That Dragon's Horde ability really helped him out there, getting a few extra cards, and I think he's hanging on to a Marnie. So off of these 5 cards, if he can find a Regirock and an Aurora Energy, we could see the turn 1 attack.
Yeah, and Marnie is, as we saw in the last game, Chip, the last set, so strong versus Lost Box. They add so many cards to their hand. We saw that Pablo was being a little bit, passive with the development of the hand. After Grant saw Battle VIP Pass going to the Lost Zone, that means that the rest of the cards in the hand were probably very good. And so just pulls the trigger on the Marnie, wants to see more cards anyway, pulls the Regirock.
I don't see the Aurora Energy, though.
Yeah, very big shame. Still turn 1, can Battle VIP Pass
Yeah,
here.
that's a really interesting one here. Not a card you really ever see in the Reggie deck. Grant is playing the Battle VIP Pass here. That's super spicy.
Yeah, just trying to have a little bit of a stronger idea for getting those turn 1 attacks. And just manually attaches the gift energy. This has been a fantastic, comeuppance for the Reggie decks. Having the gift energy so that when your active goes down, you're fine going down in the prize race just for the sake of seeing more cards. Back over to Pablo. Going to go for the Concealed Cards ability, discarding a Psychic Energy and drawing 2. Training Core in the hand is quite nice, and there's that Korez's Experiment. Even after the Marnie, still finds his way back into the hand.
What a 5 cards to see, though. Energy Recycler, Ordinary Rod, 2 Basic Energy, and a Mirage Gate.
You need all 5 of these, Chip.
Yeah, this is just Lost Box doing Lost Box things, right?
All right, gets rid of the Lightning Energy, so that's 1 Lightning Energy and a Grass Energy in the Lost Zone.
Yeah,
so
with
the
fighting
amazing
too.
shot is getting clunkier and clunkier to put together for the mid-late game.
Yeah, and with that Manaphy drawn off of this flower selecting, and that's actually Pablo's last Grass Energy there. I don't think he can afford to Lost Zone that Grass Energy because his 3rd Grass Energy is in his prize cards. So if he Lost Zones the Grass Energy, he actually will not be able to attack with the amazing Rare Raikou, and he's going to send it there.
He's gonna, okay, listen, the prize, it's in the prize cards, Chip.
Yeah,
he's like, I'm going to just go digging in the prizes. It's fine. I want this Manaphy.
I mean, Manaphy is supremely
Alecki.
important in this matchup, yeah.
Oh my goodness. And if Pablo had like a much more explosive start, and maybe if we were threatening like Raikou and Mirage Gate this turn, I could see maybe giving up on the Manaphy and saying, I'm ahead on prizes, I'm just going to keep swinging at you. But because Pablo has had a much more passive establishment of the board and the Lost Zone here, has to keep that Manaphy, goes for Kramer into the active, spit instantly to deal 110 to the Regidrago, and send things back over to Grant Shen.
Quick Ball thinning that Battle VIP Pass out of the deck. You don't want to draw into that now that it is no longer a live card for you. Just grabbing another Registeel, it looks like, putting that into the hand. Still needing an energy, though, here in order to attack. He did put the gift energy into play, which is smart. In case Pablo did find a way to get a knockout on turn 2, you'd be able to draw a few extra cards there.
And with Regidrago still in the active, we do have that Dragon's Horde.
Yep.
Just trying to see more cards. Just have the Aurora energy. That's all we need. All the Reggies once again in play. And it's just a matter of not trying to fall too far behind. Trekking Shoes, going to discard that Battle VIP Pass and finds a Marnie to keep off the shoes.
Yep, and we'll play the Marnie as well. Disrupting Pablo. I mean, we saw this in our last game. Andy Gantner just continually playing Marnie to try to disrupt Graft and Roll. Grant employing the same strategy here.
And because Pablo is now locked into needing to take these knockouts to get that final Grass energy to guarantee that he will remain ahead in the prize race with Raikou, it means that this disruption is hitting even harder than maybe Grant realizes. And there's the Aurora energy attachment to the Regidrago.
Debating what he wants to discard here, though. Twin Energy going down seems fine. Holding on to that Speed Lightning Energy for next turn could be good to help you get a little bit of extra card draw to work with.
Also gives it a choice belt. A lot of resources being attached to this Regidrago, and then Dragon's Horde to drop to 4.
Drawing a couple more cards here.
It's ironic that you kind of want this to go down now so you can get value off the gift energy. And there's another Aurora drawn off the Dragon's Horde, and one more from the Ancient Wisdom, rather. Just attached and takes 1 prize card. So now taking the first prize in the single prize, very, very important.
So as Pablo here, if you can find a way to get to 10 cards in the Lost Zone and use Sableye here, that would be incredibly strong. You could prep a bunch of Pokemon on the bench for potential damage later on. And if you knock out this Regidrago with Sableye, with Lost Mine, you're not knocking it out with damage from an attack. You're placing damage counters, which is a different effect. So by placing the damage counters, you actually would not activate the gift energy on Grant's side. You'd take that prize card, and Grant would not get to draw the extra cards because gift energy does specify if it was knocked out by damage from an attack.
That's very cheeky indeed. And we see here Pablo sent the first Raikou to the Lost Zone, and then is forced to take the second one off of the Flower Selecting.
Yeah, just 1 card away from pulling off the Lost Mine now. If he can get this Comfey back into the active, which it looks like he will be able to do.
Beautiful scoop up net.
Now he needs to just find the Sableye and get a Psychic Energy on it.
All right, we're getting offered another Fighting Energy.
And an Ordinary Rod.
Ordinary Rod. Ugh. It's from this point, I think that most of your energy is in the Lost Zone anyway. We don't need the Ordinary Rod. Just going to keep that Fighting Energy. It gives you a little bit of versatility. You can use it with Radiant Greninja. You can use it to attach to Comfey to get a retreat. So I do like the inclusion, you know, the decision to keep that. Quick Ball going to get rid of the Battle VIP pass as well. This is going to find that Sableye. Now there's enough cards in the Lost Zone, and the Psychic Energy is still in the hand, ready to go, Chip.
Yep, in the hand, ready to go. Pablo as well, taking a second there to look through the deck, get confirmation of what exactly he has available. And he is going to be big time crossing his fingers here that he is able to find a Grass Energy off of these prize cards. I'm still really thinking about that turn from Pablo, choosing to get rid of it. I mean, Manaphy is just so important in this matchup, so that's why he wanted to hang on to it. But, man, that feels really tough.
This is one of those matches where you just have to say, okay, Raikou's not going to give me a free win of bullying the mid game. It's going to be that late game finisher card, right, Chip, where it's going to come through to get those last 2 prizes. Now the Lost Mine comes out.
Yeah, and this is really good for Pablo. He can set up damage on all of these Regis. I think I'd like to see him put 2 on each of the Regi Steel, Reg Ice, and Regi Rock, and then 4 on the Regi Gigas, which is exactly what he's going for. This is going to set up all of these Regis so that they can be KO'd by either Amazing Shot or by a Cramorant in the future. With the exception of the Regieleki. Regieleki does not get KO'd as of now by the Cramorant, so that is one thing to consider.
But what's beautiful here is the Regieleki is kind of the one that's the big candidate for promotion.
Right.
So you kind of just get to place, you know, hit it with the Cramorant, then finish it off later. Grant Shen does have 3 scoop-up nets in this Regi list. Going to try to maybe get those back into the hand to get rid of these damage counters. But when you spread out the damage like this, Chip, you know, there's not enough scoop-up nets to go around. Somebody's going to have to go without, and that's the Pokemon that's going to get knocked out. Speed Lightning Energy now, the attachment for turn, allowing Grant Shen to draw 2 cards. And Regidrago also hitting the scene. So now the full assembly of Regis reestablished. And we'll see if the Ancient Wisdom is going to come through here just to get the knockout on the Sableye.
Yep, Ancient Wisdom bringing those energies back, can bring back the gift energy and say, hey, maybe you have to knock out the Regieleki. You can't use Sableye again. Please don't use Sableye again. Something along those lines. And because of Manaphy being in play, Terra Spark will not be dealing that extra damage to the bench, which is normally so strong for this Regieleki as an attacker.
Because it's a similar situation to the Sableye, is once you spread that damage around, it constantly puts your opponent under threat of you taking a 2 or even 3 prize card turn. So keeping the Manaphy is absolutely necessary for Pablo. It was just a shame that it was measured up against that Grass Energy, I believe it was, Chip.
And Pablo's holding on to a ton of great cards in hand. He's got Mirage Gate, it looks like. He will need a way to get back the Sableye. His second Sableye is actually also in the prize cards, I believe.
Oh, man.
He took it off the prizes. I can't quite tell if he did or not. There's a purple Pokemon there. It might be a Comfey.
That is, yeah, you're right. Sableye is in the prizes with that Grass Energy and a Raihan, Mirage Gate.
Yeah, he's got some awkward ones in the prizes of this game for sure.
And Pablo's fully aware of that, has already looked through the deck a couple times, and has planned accordingly. You know, the Sableye's come through, and I believe there is still an Ordinary Rod somewhere to get that back. But after, it's kind of already done its job, right, Chip? The Lost Mine came through beautifully, and now we've got Cramorant to be the cleanup crew. Just needs a little bit more damage against this Regieleki.
Yeah, interesting. Pablo does choose to promote the Cramorant. He didn't have a way to retreat his Comfey initially, but Cramorant can't knock out this Regieleki. I was thinking he was maybe going to go for an Escape Rope play this turn. I guess Escape Rope doesn't quite work, though, because Regidrago is on the bench, because Grant can pretty easily just promote that, and that's also something Cramorant can't KO. Yeah, I mean, this is just looking awkward. I mean, Pablo would be in a great spot, I think, if he could just use Amazing Shot, but he doesn't have the ability to do that.
Yep. And so we're going to pause this game really quick, Chip. I don't know if anybody picked up on it, but we were kind of singing about how Regieleki was, you know, the main focus here, where we're only running 3 copies of the very specific targeted Bolt version, and then suddenly we had the guest star of the Evolving Skies Regieleki come through, and so we're just going to have a quick double verification to make sure that the list was all verified and submitted correctly. So not really a big deal. We knew that, you know, the Regieleki is pretty standard.
Yeah.
And it might have just been somewhere down the line. Somebody said, oh, Regieleki, bam, bam, bam.
Yeah.
And when you have the same Pokemon reprinted in multiple sets, but they have different moves and abilities, it's not that big of a deal, but it gives these players a little bit more time to calculate for their position. And from what we're seeing right now, Chip, who do you think right now is favored?
Yeah, on this board state, I definitely would favor Grant, but it looks like we've got head judge Christopher Szymanski up on the stage as well. He's going to be taking a look at some things here, and I think we're just going to be making sure what the issue is with the Regieleki, like you mentioned. Yeah, I mean, we've got Grant's deck list right here. He does, on his list, have 2 Regieleki from Astral Radiance, and the one he is playing is the Regieleki from Evolving Skies. What I'm assuming here is that was just a mistake when entering the deck list. You know, using the Arcanine deck list submitter, he probably just clicked on the wrong one of the 2 cards, clicked on the Regieleki from Astral Radiance, intending to click on the Regieleki from Evolving Skies, but he did put Regieleki Astral Radiance on the deck list. So
there's a very weird world, Chip, where what if you just make the other Regieleki? The only way it would have affected any current decision making for this game was maybe the distribution of damage with the Lost Mine or the Cramorant.
They're trying to figure out how to do this here. I mean, this game is messed up because if it was the Regieleki from Astral Radiance, Pablo would have made different decisions theoretically.
Absolutely,
right?
Because then with the promotion here, all of these Regis would have been vulnerable to Cramorant here. That's currently about to swing. And then Regidrago.
I mean, he would have maybe placed his damage differently with the Sableye last turn because he knew that, you know, this one has 120 HP. If he knew it was the one with 130, he might have put some damage on it, right? It also maybe would have affected his decision to Lost Zone the Manaphy as well.
That is right.
Yeah, he maybe would have Lost Zone the Manaphy if he knew Terra Spark wasn't coming.
Then he has the Grass Energy in hand, and the Raikou is a much more immense threat from this specific board state.
So we'll get word of exactly what the decision is here going to be. We're going to not talk about it too much here as Grant is taking off his headset and walking away. But what I'm imagining is going to happen here, most likely in these situations. This is what in the rule book or in the penalty guidelines would be referred to as a deck list. A deck list.
Just a deck
error? An error, yeah. I was trying to think of the word error for some reason. Deck list error. I think this would probably be considered a deck list error major because he's got wrong cards in his deck. And what the judging staff will always do is they will resort back to the list that was submitted. So even though Grant was probably intending to play 2 copies of Regieleki from Evolving Skies, he wrote on his deck list Regieleki from Astral Radiance. So what's going to happen here, and probably why Grant was walking off the stage, is he's got to go find 2 Regieleki from Astral Radiance, or, you know, they will probably issue proxies appropriate to that for now until he can have time to get those 2 cards if he doesn't have them handy.
My kingdom for Regieleki.
In these spots, they will match the player's 60-card deck to what they submitted on their deck list. So I'm assuming Grant is going to have to change that, and he's probably going to receive a game loss for this game 1. So we'll get word if that is exactly what is going to happen, but most likely Pablo here is going to be up 1-0, and we're going to move into game 2, and Grant's going to have to make that change, and that's what he's going to have to do for the rest of this tournament.
Yeah, so for the rest of the tournament, he needs to have that substitution. That's what he's going to be playing with from here.
Yep.
And I just have to say, Chip, especially that there's a lot of players here. Every regional gets bigger and bigger, so
yeah.
Finally, something very specific like this slipped through the cracks. Because I don't know if there's any other decks, right, that run 2 different printings of the same named Pokemon like that for different situations. Not off the top of my head. I know I can hear you right now typing. You have an idea. There's some deck that's at your locals, right? That pops off.
Yeah, something along those lines. So yeah, we'll get that figured out. Grant's probably running to try to grab those cards real quick. Maybe he's got a binder in his backpack off stage, or maybe running to the vendor real quick. Who knows? That's
true.
A card people probably have plenty of in the vendors. I will say the vendor tables, I do believe, are on the other side of the hall from where the stage area is. So he's probably hustling over
Grant,
there.
Run!
Yeah.
He'll
make his way back up here
you.
shortly. Yeah. So yeah, and we are getting word that it was indeed a game 1 loss. And Pablo will be up a game here moving into these next one. And Grant's going to have to go grab those cards real quick.
Okay. And you said it's going to be a pretty easy card to find. A lot of players, another Reggie player who's on break is like, here, take this.
Yeah, maybe something like that.
It's dangerous to go alone. Take this Reggie Alecki.
A Reggie Alecki will guide you, yeah.
All of the Reggie players, it's a hive mind, Chip.
Yeah.
They're all just brethren at this point.
So that is something that's going to play a big factor moving forward in this tournament as well for Grant. He's not going to have Reggie Alecki Evolving Skies, which is a pretty important card. I mean, I'm not even thinking about just this game in general. Like, it's obviously a solid attacker. I think arguably the 130 HP Reggie Alecki is actually better in this specific matchup. But when you're talking about Lugia, now for the rest of the tournament, Grant Shen does not have a way to one-hit KO a Lugia if there's a Dunsparce in play, right?
Yeah.
Traditionally, you would use Terra Spark, put a Choice Belt on it, and then boom, you do 300 damage. You can't do that because Targeted Bolt specifies you have to target a benched Pokemon. You cannot target the active with it. So there's no way for Grant for the rest of this tournament to one-hit KO a Lugia V-Star.
Dodging Lugia is not something you can plan on here, Chip. Even though there's more players, Lugia is still about the same overall percentage of the metagame still. But it looks like Grant is sat back down at the table. He found that Reggie Alecki.
Yeah.
We're going to go into game number 2 out of this best of 3 with Pablo getting that first win by default. However, it still looked like he was in a pretty strong position regardless. And, when we kind of figure out how this second game is going to play out, Chip, Pablo has a lot more freedom now.
Yeah.
Doesn't need to worry about the mana fee anymore. That opens up easier decisions off of the Colress's experiment, off of the flower selecting, and Raikou still going to be lurking, waiting in the wings to take that key double prize turn.
And this is information Pablo now has, right? Because this ruling was made with him at the table, right?
Yep.
Now Pablo knows there's no Reggie Alecki Evolving Skies in my opponent's deck. He can make adjustments. He can, keep in mind those Zigzagoon plays. Yeah, this is, I gotta say, Adam, this is definitely, I've casted a lot of games of Pokemon over the last few years. This is definitely a first for me, seeing a player mid-match have to run to the vendors to buy a card for having an illegal deck, like not having a deck that matches his deck list. What a wild situation.
And, again, the emphasis for sure, Chip, is this is obviously a clerical error that has just slipped through the cracks to this point. There's no nefarious edge you get by, I've got this Reggie Alecki that's normally in the deck anyway. Ooh.
Yeah, right.
Oh, no, the grass energy back in the prizes, though, for Pablo.
And that Galarian Zigzagoon is actually a pretty big deal. I think Grant will be happy to know that he's prized 2 Choice Belts. Reg Ice is also not something that's super important. But yeah, Pablo putting that grass energy in the prize is not ideal, and also opening up with 2 in hand.
2 in hand. That's actually not too bad. At least you know where they are. It's all ready to go. You're chilling, and it just means, they're going to go back in the deck with Marnie or something anyway, and then you just get them out with, you just get it out with the Mirage Gate regardless. So we're going to get a nice zoomed in look at the
it looks like our graphics got sent to the lost zone there, but we'll get it figured out and sorted away as Pablo is searching through the deck with a quick ball. Imagine Radiant Greninja is going to be a pretty early grab, but he's taking note of everything that's in the prizes. I mean, it's super important in this deck to know how many energies are prized.
All right, so now with Comfey in the active, get our first little look at the deck here with the quick ball, and actually pulls the Oranguru.
Oh, interesting. I would have expected to see the Greninja come down, start drawing some cards, but Oranguru is solid as well. I think Pablo is holding on to a couple of Colress's Experiment in the hand, and Grant does play a deck that plays a lot of Marnie. In fact, he's playing 4 copies of Marnie, the maximum you can play this weekend. So knowing that Marnie is something that could be coming along, Pablo wants to potentially prep a Colress on top of the deck with that Primate Wisdom.
All right, and after that was finally set up, we've got, and again, the Comp is just going to go for the flower selecting. I don't know, with the 2 grass energy, I would have liked to see the Radiant Greninja, but the Oranguru, yeah, I think it was just probably Grant, you know, with the Marnie, as you said.
Yeah, I think considering...
You just want that.
I think maybe if Pablo only had 1 Colress in hand, he would have gone for Greninja, just try to get a little bit of card draw rolling. But the fact that he's got both Colress in hand, and you know your opponent is playing at least, you know, a multiple count of Marnie. You don't know if it's 3, 4, or what, but you know your opponent is probably playing multiple Marnies. You know if your opponent Marnies 2 Colress to the bottom of your deck, you have a pretty low chance of finding a Colress the next turn. So I do like the decision ultimately from Pablo to grab a Oranguru.
And you've got to be willing, you've got to be flexible as a player to deviate from what is the quote-unquote normal setup to just anticipate what your opponent has already shown you, what they like to do, what they've done already. And Pablo has a clock established with this Raikou now on the bench with a manual attachment. Grant is now, oh no, I don't have until turn 3, turn 4 when Mirage Gate is online. We now have this Raikou sitting here with the manual attachments to start accelerating the pace of that amazing shot coming out.
So off the battle VIP pass. I think this is the first time I've seen a VIP pass come down in a Reggie deck. We will see that Regidrago and that new Regieleki from that Astral Radiance set.
Beautiful, nice and crispy, freshly opened.
Never been played before, hitting the bench.
Yeah, went and bought 1 pack of Astral Radiance and hit it.
You think that's what he did?
Absolutely. You know that Grant Shen's got the sauce.
The magic pulls. I mean, that's a rare as well. So, I mean, it's not even like you just have to hit it as an uncommon. There's only 1 rare in every pack.
But after the Hisuian Heavy Ball, Grant Shen's just going to see, I believe there's a Reggie Ice in there. And also has eyes now that the Aurora Energy is in the prize cards and can plan appropriately. We don't need choice belts in this matchup. So outside of that Aurora Energy, the rest of those prizes you can kind of give up on. Ultra Ball going to discard the Capture Energy and the Pokestop.
Yeah, it looks like it was a gift energy going down. So, I mean, that's a good one to put down as well because we've seen how important that is for this Reggie deck, right?
Yeah.
Being able to give you that extra card draw moving forward.
Especially in this matchup where you know in a single prize race, your opponent can't just wait and try to deny the gift energy. Pablo had that luxury in game number 1 with the Sableye and the Lost Mine, but so early in the game, the gift energy puts a lot more pressure on your opponent and forces them to be proactive, if that makes sense.
Yep, I think it's a good card to get down, so now you can recover it later on. I don't think we're going to be seeing a turn 1 attack here. Well, now with the scoop up nets, it's a little more likely. We'll see what the Dragon's Horde yields for Grant. He needs to find a couple of Aurora Energies. There's 1, and he also needs to find that last Reggie, the Regigigas, which he can do off of Quick Ball, actually. So
beautiful. Quick Ball, discarding the Aurora Energy.
Yeah, we're living in a world where Grant Shen could pull off the turn 1 Regidrago attack. And if he can do that in combination with the incoming Marnie, take this Comfy out of play for Pablo, Pablo's only going to have 1 card in the Lost Zone, and he's going to be left with Raikou and a Oranguru in play, and that is it.
This Primate Wisdom Colress Experiment has to do some heavy lifting. This is Colress is getting out of the lab and into the gym because he's got to pop off here.
Well, he does have to find the Aurora Energy, and it actually looks like he's going to take it a little slower. Recognize that that's pretty unlikely. Go with the Speed Lightning Energy to draw some cards, and then now play the Marnie.
Even so, without getting this, with only just 1 Comfey, it does become very awkward to get cards into the Lost Zone regardless, because you have to find the scoop up nets, etc., to try to recycle just the 1.
Oh, you know what? And he did draw Aurora Energy, and he drew a Quick Ball, so he's going to be able to pull it off anyway. Quick Ball away that Aurora Energy, and the turn 1 attack. You see Pablo shaking his head right away.
God.
He cannot believe that Grant was able to pull that off.
This is the power of the Battle VIP Pass, I guess. You use much less resources finding your Reggie, and you just get them to play immediately, and then you can go for these Marnies right off the bat and just try to draw for those missing pieces. The Aurora Energies, especially with 1 in the prizes, Grant absolutely popping off here. That Giant Fang's about to come through.
about to come through, about to knock out this Comfy and leave Pablo with just 4 cards. We know one of them is the Colress, and that gift energy being attached as well. What a turn 1, the fabled turn 1 Regidrago attack, being able to take the KO and get a prize card on the very first turn of the game. That does not happen very often.
And Pablo has to baby this Raikou for now. He's not set up yet. So Oranguru hits the active. Goes for the Primate Wisdom. First of all, this is going to be a card now you can get back off of Colress's Experiment or make an easy selection to send to the Lost Zone.
Yep, I think he did put the Battle VIP pass on top.
Beautiful.
So, yeah, wants to get that in. That's the easy choice there. The question now becomes, do we lose a Quick Ball, one of these 2 Comfies, or a Metal Energy?
Ooh, so Comfey goes to the Lost Zone as well. We now have 3 down, but no, and there is a Cramorant in hand. Just need to do a little bit more work.
Quick Ball can get rid of a Battle VIP pass. That's a pretty easy choice as well. Anytime you have a Quick Ball and a VIP pass in hand, you know that decision is almost made for you. Similarly to how if you see it off of Colress or Flower selecting later in the game, that decision's almost made for you as well.
Absolutely. And now Radiant Greninja being found. Pablo taking a second to just evaluate the list, see what is remaining. We thought that Pablo would be in a much stronger spot thanks to that early Raikou setup, but the forbidden turn 1 Reggie attack, especially that it knocked out his only Comfey, has really shifted the momentum of this game number 2. Pablo now drawing 2 off the Concealed Cards ability, has Mirage Gate, nothing actually activating right yet.
And doesn't have a switching card in hand, so there's no way for him to get this Comfey active in order to start
I was hoping
using
maybe
flower
find an
selecting.
escape rope or something.
Yeah, I think that's what Pablo was hoping for too, to be honest, and just did not quite see it. I mean, one of the unique things about Pablo's list from San Diego and the list that he's also playing here is that he actually is playing 4 copies of Escape Rope. Not something you see super often in these Lost Zone decks, but he's playing 4 copies of that Escape Rope. Plenty of switching cards, just wasn't quite able to find the piece.
Yeah, the escape rope does make a lot of sense because it does let you get the Oranguru out of the active if it does get stranded. It allows you to, set up with the Radiant Greninja a little bit easier, and the extra escape ropes, help with the comp phase. And there's just the pass. Can't respond back to that prize from Grant Shen. And Pablo now going to be 2 prizes down after the next attack comes through onto this Oranguru. And that means that Raikou's amazing shot 100% has to connect to keep Pablo in this game.
And the thing is it's not even going to take a knockout on any of these Reggies. Everything has more than 120 HP, and Pablo does not play Hisuian Heavy Ball, and Galarian Zigzagoon is in the prize cards. This game is looking like it is really in Grant's favor right now.
And especially with the Comfey being delayed, only a couple cards sent to the Lost Zone thanks to Colress's Experiment. Wasn't even able to activate the Cramorant. Super far behind when we consider the pace that these Lost Zone decks typically get set up in the early game. And there's another prize taken for Grant Shen. Pablo draws for turn, goes for Flower Selecting.
Looks like Air Balloon and a Scoop Up Net are the choices. Is that only 2 cards in hand right now for Pablo? I mean, he is just really on the ropes here as far as resources, it seems.
Yeah, goes for the Air Balloon, can retreat into the Cramorant. There is still now 4 cards in the Lost Zone. There's another Comfey, but there's really not much to be had because we don't have the switching cards and the Scoop Up Nets to keep that chain of flower selectings going. Pablo doesn't want to overextend and hope that these next 2 cards are going to allow me to pop off. Just goes for the Spit innocently, sends things back over to Grant Shen.
Grant will play that Heavy Ball since he drew it off his prize cards once again. Just shuffle it up and get that into the discard pile. Not something he wants to draw into anymore. He has a Research in hand, but he's also holding on to Ordinary Rod. So I think he's holding off because he doesn't want to lose that recovery resource.
After those prizes are redistributed, Grant's feeling very comfortable here. Just in position to take another prize with the Giant Fangs. It's so strong to get it set up turn 1, and Pablo with no response means you're getting rep after rep after rep. If you go 3 prizes down in a single prize matchup like this, there's really not that much comeback potential.
So Pablo's going to be looking to try to get to Sableye next turn, I think, but he needs to get 6 cards in the Lost Zone, and he is not holding on to much in hand, so it's going to be hard to make that happen. We see Energy Lotto come out. That's not a card you see too often in these Reggie decks. You look at the top 7 cards, reveal an energy card there, and put it into your hand.
Finds the gift energy. That's just an extra way to search. find that final piece of the puzzle you want. I'm almost wanting to say, Chip, that Grant Shen might have built this list trying to get that turn 1 Reggie attack as consistently as possible.
Yeah, it seems like that's the strat here. That's why he's got the VIP passes. He's got those energy lottos. He wants to find the pieces and wants to pull off that turn 1 attack, and it worked out for him in this game.
Ooh, I love the manual attachment of the twin energy as well, preparing for the Reggie Gigas, just to have that next big attacker to come through once this Reggie Drago goes down. Takes a 3rd prize, Reggie Drago. The Dragon's Hoard doesn't just refer to its ability, it's also hoarding this value for Grant Shen.
Pablo is able to find an escape rope. We do see Flower selecting as well. Sees 2 energy cards. Fighting energy can go down. You're not really going to be attacking with the Rayquaza very much in this matchup, so I don't think he minds losing that too much.
Yep, we just need to find the lightning energy to put this Raikou online. Gets the retreat here thanks to the air balloon. Another Flower selecting and finds a scoop up net. Okay, is this going to be the pop-off turn? Has to send it to the Lost Zone because Raihan is the other option.
And I do think there is a lightning energy already in the discard pile. So Pablo's just got to think about how he wants to piece things together here. Once again, he is not able to take 2
I didn't see
prizes
anything.
here.
Didn't see any lightning there.
Was it not there? He did. Ooh, I'm pretty sure he used concealed cards earlier this game, but maybe not. Maybe he's already put it back into the deck.
Maybe when he fanned, it was like right on the bottom.
Yeah.
Just goes for the escape rope.
Seeing what Grant's going to promote here. Nothing on his bench gets KO'd to a Raikou attack. I mean, when Grant's making this decision, he is doing it under the assumption that Pablo will be attacking. So what is the best thing to send up here? What do you want to take a hit? Reggie Gigas has the most HP. Oh, but you don't have any energy in your discard pile, so there's a chance that whatever he sends up here could get stuck for a turn.
Goes for Regirock. I think there might have been a second one in hand or something like that. Maybe just promoting here.
It looks like, yeah, Pablo, he's keeping those energies off to the side, it looks like. That's,
okay.
That's what it is.
Okay, that's why I didn't see it. But again, this is just part of how players keep track of their resources and sequence. You just have like sub-piles of your other piles to keep track of everything. Like we can even see the Lost Zone is all fanned out so we can keep track of the energies that are in there as well. And just plays to Pablo's mastery of the deck and just the intricacy of these lists where you're having to delicately balance these very thin inclusions of energies.
And I was wondering if we were going to see Pablo go for this, not take the knockout on the Reggie Drago, not put the energies in the discard pile for Grant Shen, because then all Grant needs to do is find a way to get the Reggie Drago, and then he could just use Ancient Wisdom, throw those energies onto Regirock, and start attacking. By doing this, by not taking those energies out of play, they are locked onto that Reggie Drago, and Grant cannot, as of now, attack. Pablo is trying to buy some time here.
Has a quick ball, going to thin the deck a little bit more. Grant, from this point, has to, like, what, find scoop up net here, try to get those energies, jailbreak those energies off of the Reggie Drago.
Either scoop up net, or if he can just get 3 energy in the discard pile of any type, he can at least retreat this Regirock.
Ah, true.
And he's getting 2 down right now, so if he can just find 1 more energy, at minimum, he could use Ancient Wisdom, throw those energies onto the active, and manually retreat.
And after taking 3 prizes, we saw there was 2 capture energy and that Aurora left. I think those might be the remaining prizes, Chip, or very close to it.
Yeah, there are a lot of energy in the prizes.
Because there's the 2 choice belts. And then the Regia Ice. Yeah, so actually those other energies are the remaining prizes.
Yep. So he's got a few energies prized. He's placed so many energies, so there's still got to be some in the deck, I would think. So if he can draw one here, he can attach for turn and then Ancient Wisdom, just the 2 energies. We'll see off of 5 cards.
Yeah, Big Marnie, very high chance, I think, of seeing it from here. And Grant's just going to look to solidify.
Or getting a scoop up net would work too.
Absolutely. Going to try to solidify the position here.
I do think I see that scoop up net. He's also got trekking shoes to look through the deck a little bit more.
Yeah, so even though Pablo went for the right call here to try to find some breathing room, Grant Shen just has the draw power, has the resources to get this out of here. And there is the scoop up net, gets the Regirock out of the active spot, just re-benches. The energy still attached to Reggie Drago. It is damaged, but it has that gift energy. You want it to go down and draw those cards, Chip, and another KO is being lined up against this amazing Raikou.
Is that another scoop up net in hand? Yeah. And
ooh, and the heal, the cheeky pseudo heal.
Yep, and will take all of those energies out of play, but more importantly, take that damage out of play and sends up the Reggie Gigas. Now, this is one of the stronger attackers for Grant in this matchup. It has the most HP of every single Pokemon in his deck, and it also still deals 150 damage, which is enough to knock out anything in Pablo's deck.
And already the manual attachment of the Twin Energy from early on just comes through here immensely. Thanks to the Ancient Wisdom attaching 3, Twin Energy providing the remaining 2. Goes down, 4 prizes taken to Pablo, still not getting on the board here in the second game of this best of 3.
Yeah, this one's looking tough for Pablo. He is really going to struggle to find a way to take 6 prize cards before Grant can take just the last 2 that he needs to. I wonder if we're getting into territory where Pablo should consider, just for time's sake, scooping this one up and moving on to the next one, but he's sticking it out here. I mean, this is a spread deck, so he can take multiple prizes in multiple turns. The question is how likely is it that Grant is not going to have the response every single turn for the next 2 turns?
Exactly. I mean, and not only that, Chip, the filling up of the Lost Zone has been immensely delayed. From this point, on average, you're going to have the Sableye would have been online, 2 turns ago.
And he's not quite there still. He needs 1 more.
And all of your resources being used just to hang on, just to fill your Lost Zone back up, means that you lose out on the resiliency to respond to having the Ordinary Rod to get the Sableye back or the Raikou back. And with the comp phase being used, it's still looking pretty rough for Pablo Meza.
Looks like the Ordinary Rod is putting back a couple Pokemon and a couple energy cards. Maybe some Mirage Gates incoming. It looks like it will be Rayquaza coming in. That amazing burst, dealing 80 damage for each different type of energy that you discard from the Rayquaza. And of course, you do have to discard all of those energies whenever you attack.
And this is, the way you can take down the Regigigas.
Yep.
Grant Shen's already drawn through the deck a lot. He's seen a lot of resources. And at this point, you just have to say, are you going to be able to recover the Regi? There's the amazing burst, discarding all 3 of those energies down into the discard pile, and Regigigas goes down. Pablo Meza puts himself on the board with the first prize taken.
Grant is able to draw some extra cards off the Gift Energy, and I do think right away I saw an Ultra Ball. So pretty likely here that Grant will be able to pull off this next attack. Now, I do think a Regigigas has already been discarded. Like you said, there's some Ordinary Rods down. So the question is, does he have another Regigigas in the deck? And if he does, he's in a super solid spot.
Yep, so just promotes here, the Regidrago, then draws for turn. There's a Battle VIP pass there. There's some trekking shoes. And the Ultra Ball, as you said, Chip. So it looks like, the Regis are not being disrupted whatsoever. Just a minor bump in the road. We can still reattach the energy. Important to note that Amazing Rayquaza only has that 120 HP, so still within knockout range. Grant Shen, at the end of all of this, when all is said and done, is going to go down to 1 prize card remaining.
Yeah, and even has Marnie in hand that he could play this turn if he wants.
Yeah, just for that safety, that full disruption. The Lost Zone decks, the Lost Box, they cannot search individual cards. Shout out to Raihan. But if you're just forced to churn through so much of your resources just to find the cards you need to pull off your combos, when you're not even ahead, I think that we have to go back to your previous point, Chip, that Pablo has to now start thinking about time and take this to game number 3.
Yeah, this one's looking tough. I mean, with 2 prizes left, it's very unlikely Grant's going to lose this game. Pablo cannot take 5 prizes, I don't think, before Grant takes the 2. And yeah, I think Pablo maybe could have done this a few minutes ago, but will, at least a few turns before the game would have naturally concluded, decide to scoop it up, and we're going to game 3.
I mean, there's a world where I see the Pokestops, I see the Energy Lotto. Maybe I drag this out for a couple more turns just to get eyes on any other tech or special cards my opponent might be running. But at the end of the day, Pablo, after shuffling the cards going into game number 3, just has to get a much stronger foundation. We haven't seen Pablo really pop off on turn 1 yet for the Lost Zone. He's been playing very passively, either by choice, trying to set up for a Colress and getting disrupted by Marnie, or here in game number 2, just ended up only having the 1 Comfey and going for the Oranguru because of that awkward double Colress draw.
Right.
Again, just respecting the Marnie and just not being able to navigate that powerful disruption.
Yeah, Pablo needs to get going a lot faster in this one, but I'm going to assume here that he will choose to go first as well, so there is the chance that, Grant's deck, like we've seen, is built to really dig for the turn 1 attack with one of his Regi Pokemon, and if he can dig and make that happen in this game, if you turn 1 attack with Regis, that is super strong into any of these Lost Zone decks.
Just pulling ahead in that single prize trade. And because you have the Marnie to rely on to disrupt, you feel much more comfortable even with the threat of Raikou.
Yeah, absolutely. And it makes me wonder if Grant's decision to go for a more turbo build of the deck like this was based on how popular Lost Box was expected to be this weekend. I mean, we saw it's 20% of the meta for this event, and Lugia's meta share is actually down quite a bit, down to 26 from the previous like 30s that we've seen from the past few regionals. So with all of those things considered, you know, in the Lost Box matchup specifically, being able to turn one attack with a Reggie is so incredibly good.
And as the players set up for their first turns in the third game of this best of three, there's a lot on the line. Still early on in the Swiss rounds, but the players still want to get as many wins as possible. With so many players at the Orlando Regional Championships, you've got to get those match points. Galarian Zigzagoon once again finding its way back into the prizes, and much more balanced prizes as well for Grant. A couple scoop up nets can make it awkward to play around that Sableye later on in the game, but nothing that really gets away from setting up this first turn.
So really interesting here, Grant is actually going first. So that means Pablo, after losing that game too, chose to go second. And I maybe wonder if that's because he wants to get some damage in play with Cramorant super quickly, trying to be the one to attack first because he knows how Grant's deck is built. That's a really cool adjustment there from Pablo.
Going first versus going second, typically you kind of have an idea based on what your deck wants to do. But now considering the overall matchup is just a fantastic adaptation, especially within the span of just one best of three. Registeel in the active, Ultra Ball, scoping out a lot of Reggies here. Grant just taking a quick count, seeing what everything's looking like.
Yep,
he had the luxury in the first two games of just having the heavy ball to do the quick shortcut check.
Yeah, quick little check. He still checked his Reggies in game too, actually, because he was playing VIP pass first, and he was like, if I don't want to play this heavy ball if I know a Reggie's not prized. But he was able to see, oh, there is a Reggie prized. I've got this heavy ball. Boom, perfect. Comes in clutch indeed. Now, the question for me is going to be, can Grant find any of these battle VIP pass? And that also could be a consideration as to why Pablo chose to let Grant go first, because if Grant goes first, he can't play a supporter, which means he has much less of a chance to find those VIP passes.
And so with the scoop up net, brings the Reggie Drago out, has the Pokestop and the Dragon's Horde. Grant is not feeling any pressure whatsoever. He's just playing this like a machine, has the battle VIP pass off the Dragon's Horde.
Yeah, and he can get all of the Reggies into play off of this. He's also got access to Pokestop here if he wants. I mean, we can see a turn one Ancient Wisdom without even playing a supporter card. Obviously, he can't attack, but just getting those energies in play. Man, look at this deck. This is a really cool innovation on Reggies from Grant, something that we haven't seen in quite some time. You know, Reggies has kind of been a cookie cutter list, it feels like, for the last few formats. So big kudos to Grant for finding something unique here. A little unfortunate, I think, that for the rest of this tournament, he's going to have to play with maybe the suboptimal Reggie Alecki from what he wanted to submit in his deck. But, you know, it is what it is, and he's going to have to adjust, and you know, we'll see what he can make happen.
And you can see the acceleration of pace here. Going in game number 3, 10 minutes left in the round, single prize matchup. This is going to be a lot of very fast swings back and forth. Both players are favored, can very easily take the win based on how much momentum they can build for themselves. And it's just a matter of executing on that chip. After everything is said and done, now the Pokestop comes through, and looks like a gift energy also going to be attached onto the Regigigas. Nope. Is that a gift or a capture?
That one's a capture, but he does have the option to put a gift in play with Ancient Wisdom this turn. So he's debating where he wants to put things. He should attach somewhere. The question just becomes, what is the best option? And it looks like Gigas will be the choice.
All right, so with Manaphy in the active, it is pretty awkward here because you don't get that turn one, you're just flower selecting with the Comfey that's there. So we got to go for Colress here, try to find something to get out of this position. Battle VIP pass is picked up, so this is going to allow Pablo to establish a foundation and really open up this first turn.
A little awkward here. There's a couple cards you would like to keep. I think you'd like to hang on to the energy for some concealed card plays. Obviously, Quick Ball would be pretty good, but I'm pretty sure the best play for Pablo. Oh, he's actually going to lose the Raikou here. I was thinking maybe he would lose Quick Ball and hang on to the Raikou, but that might be the 3 cards he's debating between, actually.
So the energy goes away. Quick Ball going to go away. With the Battle VIP pass, it makes a lot of sense. You're going to get your foundational Pokemon here. We just have to get this Manaphy out of the active spot as well, and then we should be off to the races. Taking one more look at the hand, seeing to make sure I have that switch card.
Yes. And Radiant Greninja most likely will come out here as well with a multitude of energies in hand. Wants to use concealed cards as quickly as possible. Really the lifeline of this deck. I mean, Comfey is obviously incredibly important, and you end up using more flower selectings throughout a course of a game, but Greninja is so good in this deck that naturally just plays so many energy cards. You have so much recovery, but it just gets you those extra few cards you need really strong.
The difference between having a massive turn with a Lost Box deck and not is usually within the span of 1 or 2 cards. Absolutely, Chip.
Yeah.
So with the Radiant Greninja found, we're going to see some energies being discarded right away. And this gives you a lot of options. Ooh, Pokestop.
Yeah,
very
look at
important.
that.
Both players have access to this. 3 keeps. 2 scoop up nets and an ordinary rod now for Pablo Meza's hand.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, of the sequencing of when you choose to use the Pokestop. There could be an argument for going with the flower selectings, going with the concealed cards, and then debating, okay, do I need to use the Pokestop? Pablo feeling confident, though, saying, nope, I'm just going to rip the Pokestop right now. Like, if you know you're going to use it, you definitely should use it as the first thing because that gives you the most information to work with before you go with concealed cards or flower selecting.
And finding those scoop up nets just absolutely opens this deck up. This is the turn that Pablo really wanted. Escape Rope now gets the Manaphy out of the active. Technically, Grant promotes first, so then the Comfey comes up to the active, and there's the concealed cards first to draw. Another Battle VIP pass found. Oranguru is in the hand, if I'm not mistaken, so now we're going to find another Comfey, maybe get the Raikou down, start manually attaching, having that threat like we saw in game number 2.
It looks like Cramorant will be a choice as well. I think Pablo would like to probably attack with that this turn, put some damage onto the Regigigas. It does have 150 hit points, so even if you want to attack with your Raikou next turn, you can't do it. Or you can, but you can't take a knockout just yet. So even just hitting for 110 here sets this up to be 2-hit knocked out. I will say when it comes to single prize matchups, it does feel really bad to have to be the player that is 2-hit KOing 1-prizers.
Yeah.
If your opponent can just chain together 1-hit knockout after 1-hit knockout after 1-hit knockout.
But this plays into Pablo's like macro strategy that you had pointed out, Chip, of wanting to go second in this matchup. So getting the Cramorant now, having the Comfey's active, 3 cards already in the Lost Zone thanks to the turn 1 Colress. Just beautiful sequencing here. Here's the final card in the Lost Zone. Quick Ball goes to the Lost Zone. Very easy position there, easy decision. And Energy Recycler now in the hand. Going to rebench Comfey and just going to take this damage once we get around to it.
It looks like a Oranguru will come down onto the bench. This can leave a card on the top of the deck. We saw Pablo doing this in the last game, and we've seen many players utilizing a Oranguru in this way, in this format.
Oh, beautiful choice. I love Psychic Energy going onto the top there. It gives you options with the Radiant Greninja.
Yes. And the manual retreat into the Cramorant, do a little bit of damage. And, yeah, I mean, maybe Pablo's plan of hoping that Grant would be slowed down didn't quite work out because Grant will likely be able to pull off the attack this turn, but regardless, Pablo was able to get the turn 1 attack off.
Yep, so there is the Choice Belt attached to the Regigigas and into the Professor's Research, drawing 7 cards now. This Regi deck churns. It sees so much of the list, and you have to because you need the Regis. You can't skip a beat if you miss out on having your Regis established for your Ancient Wisdom to be active, and now we just have to get the rest of the energies available. We've got an Aurora in the hand that we can attach and maybe discard another.
Yeah, and this is actually going to get Grant the attack this turn. He can use Aurora Energy, attach it to the active, and discard Twin Energy, and then using Ancient Wisdom, put Twin Energy plus Gift Energy onto the active Regigigas. That's the 5 energy it needs in order to start attacking.
Important to note that even though Regigigas does have the attack lined up for this turn, Grant still needs to plan for having the next Regigigas if this is return KO.
You're definitely assuming this one's going down.
And so putting the gift energy down is even more valuable, as you said, Chip.
Yeah.
And this is just players having to plan so far ahead for their opponent's turns.
Yeah, with a Twin Energy in the prize cards as well. Grant maybe got a little lucky there to actually find the Twin Energy off of the research, but he's seen a decent amount of cards. His deck is built to do it. He still had access to Pokestop as well as a way to even mill an additional energy card if he needed to go for it. But you'll see in a spot like this, it is optional whether or not you want to use that Pokestop. So Grant is going to choose to not utilize it because he knows there are a lot of bad cards he could mill here. He could get rid of Marnies and Researches, and those are things he wants to draw into off of Gift Energy / his top deck.
And that's one thing I also want to point out, Chip. There's 2 scoop-up nets in the prize cards, and that means that this damage has a much higher chance of sticking. Pablo's in a much better pace now, especially with the Chorus Experiment, to hit this Lost Mine. And so we don't have to worry about the scoop-up net throwing off any key math once you're trying to come through and scoop up those prizes with the amazing Raikou.
If Pablo can get to a Lost Mine here, it would be really strong. It is going to be hard, though. This Chorus will put him up to 6 cards in the Lost Zone, so that means he needs to use 4 flower selectings in order to get to the Lost Mine. It's much more likely to see an amazing shot this turn. But one thing to note as well, we're under 4 minutes remaining in this round. There was a time extension awarded to these players, thanks to everything that had to happen with the judge ruling in game number 1, but that is reflected on our timer, so we are under 4 minutes here.
And so after the Raihan goes to the Lost Zone.
Oh, that must have been number 7. Yep. Oh, yeah, off of the flower selecting.
Yep, so then Raikou is on the bench, and this sets up Mirage Gate finally. And we look at the Lost Zone, there is 1 Lightning, 1 Grass in the Lost Zone. So this is the remaining 2 energy. We have to find a metal energy as well to complete this trifecta and get the amazing shot. With the damaged Regigigas, we can pick up a little bit more of a sprinkle of damage onto a benched Regi.
So my question becomes, does Pablo have Galarian Zigzagoon? And I don't see it or a Quick Ball in the hand just yet.
Yeah, the Galarian Zigzagoon once again is in the prizes.
Oh, is it in there in this game too?
Yes,
oh, wow.
it has
yeah,
not
he prized
left
it
those
2
prize
games in a row.
cards.
Yeah, dang.
So he doesn't have a way to fix that math. Just has to start taking prizes. And you know what, Chip? Maybe it lines up perfectly when the Sableye comes online.
Yeah.
After we take a few prize cards here. Grant Shen just thinking about what Regi do I want to promote in the meantime as I go searching for my Gigas.
It looks like it'll be the Drago. Faked this out for a second, wanted to go with the Alecki, but no, Drago comes to the active, as that is the one with Dragon's Horde. So, and also one, I think he had the Regi Drago in hand, so he's respecting the Galarian Zigzagoon here. He knows Pablo played it in San Diego last tournament, so something he's aware of. But no, Pablo does not have access to it. Will KO that Regigigas and put 120 onto the active Drago.
And the gift energy does still activate even if it goes down while on the bench. Because it did go down to the attack,
yes,
right?
Yep. Anytime it's from damage from an attack. So he does still get to draw that card for the gift energy, and now we'll draw for turn.
And there it is, Regigigas right off the top.
Perfect.
There was never any doubt. The Gigas comes through. Grant Shen not only piloting this deck very well, but the Regis are really responding, and the setups have been there. The turn 1 attack was there. He hasn't missed a beat yet with this Regi deck. And in a single prize matchup, this is so key to keep that pressure. Once you get established, the Regis just never let up. And that's one of the things that have really made, the Regi players fall in love with this list. We have a lot of long-time players that either stuck with it through thick and thin or have over time added it to their repertoire.
So there's a few awkward things going on here. Grant only has 1 Aurora energy in the discard pile, so he can't actually attack with the Regi Drago just yet.
True.
And he kind of wants to scoop up net this active. I think his best attacker is honestly going to be the Regirock that is on the bench. If he can find scoop up net and pick up this active Regi Drago.
We do have the Aurora energy, though, being found. We can get a manual attachment here to discard something. So it looks like the Drago is unleashed. There's still 2 scoop-up nets in the prizes. And so it makes it very awkward to find those to, get rid of these early damage counters. The longer that Grant Shen waits and can't respond, it means that it gives Pablo so much time to come through, take 1 prize, take 2 prizes, or even, set up some sort of crazy 3-prize turn if Lost Mine hits here in the next turn with 7 cards into the Lost Zone for Pablo.
I was wondering if we were going to see Grant go for the Pokestop here. It looks like he doesn't want to risk discarding anything important, though. Doesn't really care about picking up this. Oh, maybe also knowing that he has 2 scoop-up nets prized. He decided not to dig for it, so that makes sense as well.
So overall, Grant still pulling ahead in the prize race, taking 2, and now that is going to be time in the round. Ticks all the way down to 0.
Yeah, and I think these players, both being veterans, understand the situation. They have 5 prize cards apiece. All of their Pokemon give up 1 prize card. They know that this game is going to end in a tie. They could play out the +3 turns for Theater, but there's really no reason to. This is going to end in a tie. Both players moving to 3-0-1.
Yeah, beautiful display there. Really unfortunate, I think, because Pablo was in a couple positions where he could have pulled very far ahead. But Grant did a fantastic job as well in the early game of setting up that early pressure, playing to the strengths of the list, having that beautiful continuous disruption with the Marnie. It meant that Pablo just was never able to get those massive lost zone swings that the deck has really become known for, Chip.
It's unfortunate for Grant, too, because I think in game one, he was in a solid position, but then everything happened with us realizing that he's got the wrong Regieleki in the deck. You know, the judges get notified. They get everything figured out and sorted away. Everything, I mean, as far as tournament integrity goes, they did everything they needed to do to make sure that that is kept, but it's just unfortunate because Grant was probably going to win that game. And like you mentioned, I mean, it matters a little bit, but ultimately, like if he had played the whole game with the correct Regielekis, he was probably still going to win that game. He was in a really solid position, and this does feel like a solid matchup for the Reggie deck. And
especially again,
Pablo
the way
comes away with a tie, which I think, thinking about the matchup, he should feel pretty good coming away with a match point.
Yeah, when it comes to single prize, regardless of the matchup, things can always kind of get kind of grindy and dirtily, and you just run out of time. It's just something that happens in this single prize meta, and at the end of the day, I think players definitely played, both players played very well, and Grant really showing us a new spin on Reggies that, you know, might actually give it an even stronger edge in future metagames.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his build is very unique, and it would be cool to see more players try to adapt and innovate in ways like this. You know, Grant playing the VIP pass, really trying to turbo through the deck and pull off that turn one attack, and we saw him do exactly that in game number 2.
The VIP pass, glorious technology, right? The Reggies, it's so interesting too, because Reggies, I think the easy part is getting all the Reggies in play. The hard part is finding the energies and getting them into the discard pile.
Generally,
so doubling down on something your deck kind of already does well is for certain something that players aren't going to look at specifically. You like to take those extra slots to adapt to the metagame. You know, I'm running Energy Lotto instead of, what's the other tech? Yell Horn.
Right. Yeah, and that would have been a crazy tech coming into this weekend. I mean, really something that you play for control, or like the Pikachus and Ice Qs, and there is some of that this weekend, but, you know, in a 1,500 person tournament, you got to expect that's less than 1% of the metagame, and it's, I promise you, it is never worth teching for less than 1% of your given metagame. It's honestly, when it comes down to it, with these tournaments being so massive, it becomes a numbers game at the top level.